June 2024. Saudi Arabia says they have built a working artificial sun, a fusion reactor promising unlimited clean energy and a world beyond oil. They say it produces near zero-cost electricity with no emissions, and they are offering to share the technology with every nation. Overnight, governments and markets are in chaos. But how much of this shocking breakthrough is fact? And could it really change the course of human civilization? The answers demand a closer look at what Saudi Arabia just admitted, and the world's reaction is only the beginning. Shockwave. Newswires flood with headlines as the world scrambles to process the announcement. Chyrons flash across every major network with headlines. Saudi Arabia claims working artificial sun, unlimited clean energy unveiled. Kingdom offers fusion tech to all nations. Social media platforms explode in a frenzy. Hashtags multiplying by the minute. Hashtag artificial sun, hashtag fusion revolution, hashtag energy game changer. Within hours, posts speculating on the end of oil, the collapse of energy markets, and the dawn of a new era trend globally. Rumors swirl about emergency meetings in global capitals. Energy traders watch commodity tickers with white-knuckle tension, searching for signs of a seismic shift. Confusion. Financial markets react with confusion and disbelief. Oil prices swing wildly as algorithms struggle to make sense of the news. Investors debate whether the world's largest petroleum exporter has just made its own business obsolete. Energy analysts race to update forecasts, some predicting the fastest economic realignment in history if the claims prove true. Meanwhile, environmental groups celebrate online, calling it the single most important climate announcement of the century. Skeptics warn of overhype and demand technical proof, but their voices are drowned out in the initial uproar. Verification. Official statements pour in from governments and energy ministries. Some leaders welcome the pledge to share the technology, urging cooperation for a global rollout. Others express deep skepticism and call for independent verification. The International Atomic Energy Agency issues a brief note acknowledging the claim and promising to seek further details. Major scientific journals and research institutions request immediate access to data and reactor specifications. The world's top physicists are quoted in real time, many expressing astonishment and caution in equal measure. Possibility. Saudi Arabia's own press agency releases a short statement reiterating the commitment to usher in a new era of sustainable abundance for all mankind. No technical details are provided, fueling speculation and conspiracy theories. In the first 24 hours, the story dominates every platform. For a moment, the possibility of unlimited clean energy feels within reach, and the uncertainty is as electric as the promise itself. Within hours of the announcement, the world's financial centers braced for shock. The energy sector index in Riyadh closed down nearly 6%, while oil futures in New York and London seesawed in the widest single-day range since the start of the pandemic. Traders flooded the market with sell orders, unsure whether to treat the news as a hoax, a diplomatic gambit, or the dawn of a new industrial age. Commodity analysts scrambled to interpret the ripple effects, with some warning that even the rumor of a post-oil future could trigger capital flight and upend decades of investment strategy. In major capitals, government leaders called emergency cabinet sessions. Diplomatic cables zipped between embassies, seeking clarification and contingency plans. The White House press secretary fielded urgent questions about energy security and treaty obligations. In Brussels, the European Commission convened a late-night meeting to assess the economic and geopolitical fallout. Beijing's foreign ministry issued a brief statement calling for transparency, while Moscow's energy officials refused to comment, fueling speculation about back-channel negotiations. Stock exchanges in Asia saw energy conglomerates lose billions in market value before noon. Shares in renewable energy firms spiked, while utilities with heavy fossil fuel exposure faced sudden downgrades from ratings agencies. Oil-dependent economies from Nigeria to Venezuela watched their currencies wobble. Meanwhile, sovereign wealth funds in the Gulf quietly reviewed their holdings, weighing the risks of an accelerated transition away from hydrocarbons. International agencies moved quickly to address the uncertainty. The International Atomic Energy Agency requested technical documentation, while the World Bank issued a note on potential global economic volatility. Energy think tanks released flash reports, cautioning that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Amid the confusion, the magnitude of Saudi Arabia's claim settled in. For a nation whose fortunes have been tied to oil for generations, the prospect of unlimited, clean power threatened to rewrite the rules of global commerce and diplomacy overnight. The initial shock left markets and policymakers grasping for answers, as the world waited for scientific clarity. At the heart of every star, a process unfolds that has captivated scientists for generations. Inside the sun, temperatures soar above 15 million degrees Celsius. Under this immense heat and pressure, hydrogen atoms are forced so close together that their nuclei fuse, forming helium. This fusion releases a burst of energy that radiates across the solar system and powers life on Earth. The secret lies in the mass deficit. When two light nuclei merge, the resulting nucleus weighs slightly less than the sum of its parts. That tiny bit of missing mass transforms directly into energy, as described by Einstein's equation E equals mc squared. Even a small amount of mass can unleash a staggering amount of energy. For decades, physicists have dreamed of recreating this process on Earth. The allure is simple. If fusion could be tamed, it would offer a nearly limitless source of clean power. No carbon emissions, no long-lived radioactive waste, and fuel drawn from the most abundant element in the universe. The most promising reaction involves two isotopes of hydrogen, deuterium, and tritium. When these nuclei collide at high speed, they fuse to create helium and a high-energy neutron. The energy released in this reaction is enormous. Just 1 gram of fusion fuel can produce as much energy as burning 8 tons of oil. A leading fusion scientist describes the challenge as a kind of controlled lightning. To make fusion happen, the fuel must be heated to more than 100 million degrees, hotter than the core of the sun itself. At these temperatures, matter becomes plasma, a state where electrons break free from atoms and particles move at blistering speeds. But plasma is wild and unstable. It cannot touch any physical container, or it will instantly cool and the reaction will stop. That is why scientists use powerful magnetic fields to suspend the plasma in mid-air, shaping and containing it inside devices called tokamaks or stellarators. These magnetic bottles keep the superheated fuel away from the reactor walls, allowing the fusion reaction to continue. The challenge is not just reaching these extreme conditions, but holding them steady. The fusion process demands a delicate balance of temperature, pressure, and confinement time. If the plasma cools or leaks, the reaction fizzles out. The goal is to achieve what is called net energy, getting more energy out of the reaction than is put in to heat and sustain the plasma. This milestone has proven elusive. For decades, fusion experiments have inched closer, but often fallen short. Recent breakthroughs in the United States, China, and South Korea have set records for plasma temperature and duration, but practical, continuous fusion power remains just out of reach. The science of fusion is both elegant and daunting. It asks engineers to build machines that mimic the sun, to bottle a star's fire on Earth. The promise is immense. A single reactor, fueled by seawater and lithium, could supply electricity for millions without polluting the air or leaving a legacy of hazardous waste. Fusion's potential has drawn billions in investment and inspired generations of scientists to chase the dream. Yet every step forward reveals new technical hurdles, new questions about materials, stability, and scale. For those who work at the frontier of fusion research, the pursuit is more than a scientific quest. It is a vision of a world where energy is abundant, clean, and accessible to all. The story of fusion is not only about technology, but about ambition, the determination to harness the very force that powers the stars. Inside the world's most advanced fusion labs, the path from theory to reality is measured in diagnostics, not declarations. The leap from promising headlines to a true artificial sun runs through a gauntlet of engineering barriers, each one defined by hard numbers and unforgiving physics. At the heart of any fusion reactor lies a single, brutal question. Can the device sustain plasma conditions long enough at high enough temperature and density to achieve net energy gain? And can it do so reliably without catastrophic failure of its materials or systems? A Saudi lead scientist, speaking at a recent energy conference, lays out the kingdom's claim specifications. The reactor, according to official statements, operates at plasma temperatures exceeding 120 million degrees Celsius. Magnetic confinement is achieved using high-temperature superconducting coils, supposedly generating fields above 12 Tesla, comparable to the world's leading tokamak experiments. The device is said to run deuterium-tritium fuel cycles, targeting a net energy gain factor called Q greater than 1, the holy grail that has eluded decades of global research. Yet, as every fusion engineer knows, numbers alone do not prove performance. The true test lies in diagnostics, streams of data that must be captured, logged, and made available for independent scrutiny. In established fusion science, peer-reviewed proof demands a complete set of measurements. Neutron flux records to confirm fusion events, real-time plasma temperature and density profiles, and logs of input versus output power, all recorded at millisecond resolution. Without these, any claim of net positive energy is little more than a press release. Material endurance is another unforgiving benchmark. The inner walls of a fusion reactor face relentless bombardment from high-energy neutrons, which can shatter atomic lattices and erode even the toughest alloys in months. Tungsten, beryllium, and advanced ceramics are under constant study worldwide, but no material has yet proven immune to fusion's fury over years of operation. Saudi Arabia's announcement references proprietary plasma-facing components, but provides no published endurance data or irradiation test results. In the global fusion community, such a mission is a red flag. Without evidence of multi-year durability under neutron flux, commercial viability remains out of reach. Tritium logistics present yet another layer of complexity. Tritium is rare, radioactive, and must be bred within the reactor itself using lithium blankets, a process that remains experimental even in the most advanced international projects. The Saudi team claims a closed-loop tritium cycle, but offers no details on breeding ratios, recovery efficiency, or regulatory oversight. For independent engineers, these are not minor footnotes, but essential criteria. Without a proven tritium supply chain, any large-scale fusion operation is unsustainable. A skeptical engineer familiar with the global fusion race voices the central concern. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. The world's leading reactors, China's East, South Korea's K-STAR, the U.S. National Ignition Facility, publish thousands of pages of diagnostic logs, material test results, and peer-reviewed analyses for every milestone. By contrast, the Saudi project has released no technical papers, no raw data, and no third-party inspection reports. The international standard is clear. Only transparent, reproducible evidence can move a claim from speculation to scientific fact. For the world to accept a new artificial sun, several criteria must be met. First, independent neutron flux measurements must confirm sustained fusion reactions over hundreds or thousands of seconds. Second, detailed logs of plasma temperature, density, and magnetic field strength must be made available for outside review. Third, the reactor's materials, especially the plasma-facing components, must demonstrate durability under intense neutron bombardment, documented by endurance tests and post-irradiation analysis. Finally, the full tritium fuel cycle must be proven, with closed-loop breeding and recovery validated by external auditors. Until these hurdles are cleared, skepticism will remain as strong as hope. The world's scientific community is watching, ready to scrutinize every data point, every diagnostic log, every claim of net energy gain. In the race to bottle the sun, the proof is in the numbers, not the narrative. A leading energy economist describes the world that could follow if fusion power truly arrives. In a matter of months, the cost of electricity plunges towards zero. Desalination plants, once limited by massive energy bills, run around the clock, turning seawater into fresh water for crops and cities across the Middle East and North Africa. The price of clean water collapses. Massive greenhouses and vertical farms, powered by fusion's endless supply, spring up in deserts that once seemed inhospitable. Food security, long a concern for arid nations, becomes a matter of logistics, not rainfall. This is abundance. Steel mills and cement factories, historically among the dirtiest, most energy-hungry industries, Switch to fusion power, slashing emissions to near zero. The entire cost curve for manufacturing shifts as energy ceases to be a constraint. Climate models are rewritten. With fusion reactors feeding the grid, carbon emissions drop off a cliff, and the timeline for reaching net zero becomes a question of political will, not technical limits. Every sector, from data centers to transportation, recalculates its future. The economists' models show a world where abundance is not an aspiration but an expectation, if the technology can be verified and delivered at scale. A clock starts ticking the moment a breakthrough of this magnitude is announced. In Geneva, the International Atomic Energy Agency drafts a formal inspection protocol, calling for a live demonstration under global observation. The world's top scientific bodies insist on a minimum sustained runtime, 1,000 continuous seconds of verified net energy gain, recorded by independent neutron detectors and streamed in real time to a public data portal. The Saudi government faces mounting pressure to comply, but the question of oversight becomes a diplomatic fault line. Should the reactor be open to a coalition of international auditors, or will access be limited to select partners under strict confidentiality? A geopolitical analyst describes the standoff as a test of trust and transparency. Some nations demand that all diagnostic logs, from plasma temperature curves to tritium breeding rates, be shared without restriction. Others, wary of intellectual property theft or sabotage, urge caution and tight controls. Meanwhile, the IAEA proposes a rotating team of inspectors drawn from rival blocs to ensure impartiality. The timeline is non-negotiable. The demonstration must occur within 30 days, or the world's patience and markets may snap. As the deadline approaches, the debate over access and governance grows sharper, with the fate of the world's energy future hanging in the balance. The world waits for evidence, but energy myths spread faster than fusion breakthroughs. As nations race for clean power, facts, not headlines, will decide who leads the next era. Saudi Arabia's ambitions are real, but the technology is not here yet. In the end, progress depends not on claims, but on proof. The future belongs to those who deliver, not just promise, the impossible.